Oh boy. Oh crap. Didn't see you guys there. This is of course Tom the Chosen One, and I'm just sitting here chillaxing, relaxing, all cool, taking a watch on my new nice little television. And today we're going to be talking about a cool little game from talented indie dev Maldo 19, which if you're a fan of the channel you would know developed 2020's Horror of Salazar House, a game I really enjoyed. And so this time around Maldo has done it again with this year's Nightmare Zapping. So let's take a look. Let's grab your TV remotes and let's go into the television. Alright fellas, to start off, just a bit of transparency. Maldo is a friend of the channel and offered a code for Nightmare Zapping for me to enjoy, but I purchased a copy of it myself to not only give it a little bit back to my friend, but also to give a fair review to you guys and give Maldo the most fair feedback he could get for his game. The key that I have received though, I will be giving out as a little giveaway over on my Twitter, which you can find down below in the description for those interested. Now to get into Nightmare Zapping, you play a normal schmo with a remote control that allows you to enjoy two pieces of media at your disposal, one of which is Nightmare Zapping Part 1, and the other one of course being Nightmare Zapping Part 2. Both parts of Nightmare Zapping tell this tale of two towns, one being Canela Town and the other one being Laurel Town, where a devious black entity is causing the disappearances of people from both towns, and it's up to you to get to the bottom of this mystery. So, to start off with, let's just talk about the gameplay of Nightmare Zapping because it's pretty short. I don't really have a lot to say, but honestly all I can really say is that it gets the job done. The bulk of Nightmare Zapping's gameplay is going to be spent going through the different channels and seeing if there's anything interesting to be seen, which like any TV that you're going to find on public access TV, it's going to be quite a few channels of static, but hey, I guess the guy watching didn't pay for a better cable package. In these channels, there will be little vignettes that showcases various different events that are happening in Canela Town and later in Laurel Town in Part 2, with many of them being a mostly visual and narrative trait, but there are a few different ones that some choices can be made. And the choices to be made can vary between taking a cutie named Amelia out on a wonderful date with some options to make it one to remember, or some where you might have to maneuver a little spaceship to defeat the aliens and save the sweet babe in the end. There's even one little section where you will need to watch other channels to figure out the pattern of a prayer in order to receive one of the clues that will reveal the truth of Canela Town. There is of course ways that you can make decisions that will conclude the vignette in a variety of different ways, but overall it would not change much, really only having a different ending and potentially having to redo the vignette again. And while there isn't the most variations out there with the vignettes, I do think the concept of it is quite sound. I frequently, when playing through it, thought of the WarioWare games where you have these little bite-sized mini-games or stories that you only linger on for a few seconds, or maybe a minute or two at the most. Personally, while the speed of WarioWare might not be the best case scenario for a horror or mystery game, but telling the overall story of some horrific events in vignettes that is shown here, and more so in Part 2, really calls back and connects with other vignettes is a cool idea that perhaps Maldo could expand in the future. I certainly would love to see a bigger, higher budget experience using this sort of formula. Now we're going to move on over to the narrative of Nightmare Zapping, and kind of like the gameplay, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but there's more meat to this beast than we would think, so let's get on with it. As stated earlier, the story is presented in little vignettes that on the whole will elaborate on the greater mystery that is happening in Canela and Laurel Town, ranging from something as simple as a man coming across a really odd pair of dogs that want to maul his ass to death, a man getting late to work that needs to get a little grub on, and even in the second part, a vignette about a movie that is much more sinister than it seems. Most of these vignettes have a character or entity that is central to the events happening to the two towns, and it interacts with different characters in ways that it tries to deliberately target their weaknesses, such as targeting a man with a cute date, or by pressing on the faith of a priest to torment him. A lot of these vignettes are one-offs that just tell one little story, but there's quite a few of them, especially in the second half, where the story has many different arcs where the narrative weaves in and out of characters and their family and friends to create this bigger picture. But in the end, all the vignettes, when watched in order and maybe some a couple times over, will tell the complete story of what happened with the two towns to the point that I mostly felt pretty satisfied with it, especially for what it is, and that is a 2-hour or so project that Maldo has been cooking up on the side. To me, the best way I can equate to the narrative and the feeling this game gives me is one of surfing the channels of late night cable television, preferably done at 2 in the morning when you're extra delirious. I apologize to the zoomies out there that this might be kind of past their time, but sometimes back in the day of cable TV, you would just sit there and look for something to watch at a late hour because you just can't go to bed, and you'll just surf through the channels looking for something good. Most of the time, since there isn't anything really worth watching, and since it is of course a dead period in the programming where people can't be advertised to, networks are gonna throw their weirdest stuff on there. And as a quick aside, this is where all the juiciest weirdo stuff that will somehow influence you for years is gonna show up. Usually you won't find anything, so you'll just kind of keep flipping through the channels. In a way, you never watch one thing completely, but you're really watching a whole bunch of different shows and stories in little bite-sized, non-chronological order pieces where you are missing the big gaps since you're of course, flipping through the channels. And while you won't remember any of those specific programs in detail, the whole night will be fondly remembered in the depths of your mind as one of those weird times of semi-lucidity that you felt like dreaming, but you really weren't. You were just watching terrible TV at 2 in the morning. To me, somehow Nightmare Zapping did a really great job of getting that feel down, even if it wasn't necessarily something that Maldo was going for. But either way, it makes for a very intriguing play that reminds me of those ancient nights before streaming took everything over and just ruined everything. So with what I would say the best way to play through Nightmare Zapping is to wait till it's like 2 a.m. and when you're kinda super tired and maybe, a little bit sleepy, and you'll enjoy this nice little piece of 2 hours before you soundly fall asleep on your desk or on your couch. Maldo, my friend, I don't even know if it was your intention, but the fact that you just got out here and you made me feel that ancient feeling of going in and watching late night television, not even really knowing what you're gonna watch, was a huge deal for me and made the playthrough absolutely worth it. So, bravo in that effort. But from there, let's head on over to the presentation very quick because kind of like everything, I just got a few thoughts to say about it, but we'll get on with it. Now, I'm not going to be hung up on the presentation of Nightmare Zapping since it's relatively simple, because by the nature of the experience, it's more of a quantity thing than a quality thing. Not that there isn't quality, especially in the second half with some of the cool scenes shown. Most of the games will mount a pixel art that will be showcased through the various channels that range from small kids being dragged off to their doom, cuties like the lovely Amelia that has something more nefarious underneath, or old, decayed, and desiccating bodies that the entity has left behind in his horrible rampage. Though the range of the art can go from something I can lovingly recreate on MS Paint, spoiler alert, I really can't, and then it goes into a few scenes in the second half that are wonderfully rotoscoped that reminds me a lot of Maldo's work in Horror of Salazar House. I will also admit that the second part of Nightmare Zapping has much better presentation in my opinion, but it shouldn't really be a bother because you're going to be playing the game in chronological order anyways, so it's just going to naturally fit better and get better naturally. Now, another area that I will admit isn't as developed as Salazar House, and it's not quite there as much as I would hope, is the soundtrack, but like the visuals of doing 50 plus odd channels, it just feasibly isn't realistic to create a whole lot of in-depth music that realistically might not be heard over maybe a few seconds or at most maybe a minute or two. Which is a shame to say because the spin that Maldo did on Salazar House of Giuseppe Tartini's The Devil's Trill Sonata was great and really set the tone of exploring this creepy old house that some nasty things occurred in up in the mountains of Chile. On the other hand though, Nightmare Zapping has to do a lot more with quantity over quality, but at the end of the day, it gets the job done, so, I don't really know what I'm complaining about. And to be a little bit snarky here, like, if this sort of stuff bothers you, then I don't know what to say other than the fact that the game is like $5, if even, so don't be so anal about it. Which leads me to say that Nightmare Zapping doesn't quite reach the same level as presentation as Salazar House, but we have to be honest with ourselves and not just the scope and length of the game, but also probably the budget. Nightmare Zapping is a smaller scale project that Maldo most likely did on the side to stretch out his game day legs and get a little bit of cash on the side. That being said, it does hope for a future where we could get Maldo's full attention into a game once again like with Salazar House, because when it happens and Maldo's firing on all cylinders, we get some really great stuff. And so here we are at the end, and I gotta say fellas that with what Nightmare Zapping is, even at the short length that it is, I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. So I gotta say that Nightmare Zapping, for me anyways, is a very solid 8 out of 10. It might not seem like a whole lot fellas, but all games are the sum of its parts, and when you put all of Nightmare Zapping together, you get a nice little 2-hour experience that will satisfy you for a night, and sometimes that's all really you can ask for. And to be perfectly honest fellas, the game is cheaper than the price of your average coffee in pretty much most places. Well, except here in Italy where you can get a great coffee for like €1, but that's beside the point. The point I'm trying to make is that if the game at all in this video interests you in any way, then you should just go out and give it a try, because at the price that it is sitting at, there's really no reason not to. I know that when life is going full swing, that game development isn't the easiest thing in the world. We all got our little lives to live, so when things like work or school, or hell, both of them combined, it can really put a dampener on things. So I know getting back into work now that I feel that way just trying to edit a Tomcast together, let alone a bigger video like this, even though this is a smaller video. But if you keep at it little by little, something great can come out of it, and we see that with Nightmare Zapping. So Maldo, my friend, don't feel bad that this game might be at a scope that you think of, because what you've made here is a nice little achievement. Well fellas, we're kind of here at the end of the video, and if you're new here and you made it all the way this far, thank you so much my friend, I really do appreciate it. Welcome to the channel. I hope there's some cool stuff for you to see, and if you do like my other content, my other horror videos or RPG videos, then go on in there and maybe subscribe and stay tuned for some more cool content that we're going to have for the rest of the year. And going from there, Maldo, my friend, once again, well done for another great game that you've released. I know it ain't as big as the previous stuff that you made, but, every game is still a game made, so I don't got no champagne or Prosecco or anything like that. I just got, Birra Moretti, because that's what's in my fridge. So, cheers, my friend, to another well done game. Well, there you go for some ASMR Tom drinking live. But anyways, Maldo, like I said, once again, you made a great game. It was really well done. For everybody out there, I hope you had a great time watching this video, and I hope you give this little game a chance, because it really does deserve it. Well, Maldo, looking forward to what you do next, and hey, maybe, just maybe, we'll have you in for the Tomcast so we can talk about this sort of stuff. It's always interesting to hear game development from, fellow Latin Americans and what their experience is in the, not quite first world. So with that, hey, gotta leave that door open, of course. But, of course, this is Tom the Chosen One. I'm gonna sit back, relax, enjoy the rest of this beer, and keep watching this disgusting, disgusting show that I absolutely love. Because, hey, if it's between you and me, if I had stalking here, oh boy, brother, I'd be in big trouble. So with that, this is Tom the Chosen One, and I hope you guys have a great time. Take it easy.